did you first go in search of archaeological artifacts?
In 1968 was my first visit to South America, Colombia.
And why did you choose Colombia?
Well, because it's because actually my study, and I was not so sure at the time what country I was really interested to start at the beginning of this introduction to archaeology in South America, and a field work for me was determining also my knowledge and my from my reading in Europe and in Canada and the United States. So I decided the first trip was not only important to me, Colombia, but because of course the importance of the museum and collection, in Bogota, in other places. That was my first introduction to South American trip.
Did you find anything on the trip?
No, it was only, I said, for an introduction really to study myself, what was really the importance of this idea that was coming in my mind for years. And
what was the idea?
Well, I come to the conclusion after studying so years about what was Mesoamerica and South America cultural aspect, that for what really we know at that time, I was knowing myself at that time, it was not sufficient to explain what was really the background of the classical funding and the archaeological field. I do believe, of course, that information was accumulated by the funding from the time the Spaniard conquistadors arrived, but actually it was not really fully explained the people that was involved in the concept of that cultural development. And also the information was not very clear what it was in South America before of the Inca. Everything was Inca. In fact, still today they use the word Incaico. Everything is a ruin, so artifacts or anything is Incaico. But the reason of I was questioning all this because the Inca actually they never have a cultural development of a civilization per se. They are conquered, and of course they are moving many of the population that they conquer from place to place. They are too busy to reach the peak of their own the subjugations of other people, and they have a huge, large empire by all standard. But they come in light only from 1200 AD, and they last only 350 years. And so I was interested to know what it was about. This is my question was, what was behind? Who was this before? And we have a very little information, at that time.
What was your first indication of the civilizations or cultures before the Inca?
Well, it was really after I reached in the late '68 when I got down to Ecuador. It's there that I have the first impact of what was the South American archaeology. Because already study was done, not on a large scale, on a small scale, mostly by people that in one way was not the organized museum or organized
Societies.
yes, on an archaeological field, anthropological field, but by people that they become interested in archaeological field, they become to explore many different areas of Ecuador, and there was a culture already in full developed 500 BC, 800 BC, 1200 BC, up to, at that time, 3500 BC, the Valdivia culture in South Ecuador. And
Say that word again,
Valdivia.
Are those the same as the little the little
That's
people
correct,
like
yes.
Right.
All right. But again, the concentrations of this knowledge was only on a coastline, on the coast of Ecuador. And that was really the first realizations for me. Okay, what I was thinking was there. And there was a question to enlarge in order to find out really what was the possibility to really try to reach if these people have a common ancestor, or where they come from, or if it was a continuations of the patterns that many people believe. So from north, but it occurred to me at that time, okay, actually
Continuation of the patterns from
north to south.
yes, north, yes.
But it occurred to me at that time already that there was a much more oldest culture from the south that in Mesoamerica. And many of the aspects of characteristic of the artifacts indicated actually that it was not for north to south, but actually was for south to north. So I concentrated in that theory and that feeling. And
That led you to the Amazon.
correct. Because after I studied for years the development of the coast into the Ecuador and the north up in Colombia, and then of course I make a trip in Mesoamerica, but also on the south of Ecuador, Peru and Chile. It came to me, okay, actually theoretically, by study the patterns of the weather that was so-called the last ice ages.
Yes.
The only place that America was able to develop such culture was on a broad plain of the equator, on the size of both the Andes in east and west. It was the only place at the end of the ice age where the temperature and the environment was sufficient to support life. On the south, the Peru coastline, of course, was very narrow and very desert-like.
Very dry.
On the north, was practically no land, because Colombia, the Andean system in Colombia, dropped into practically on a sea, in the Pacific. And the only geographical place where you have a broad expanse of land on a 30 or 60 miles in depth was really an equator, where's Ecuador today. And but still, I believe myself that the life does start from there. It was not sufficient to support life the way people can expand into society and to start to form a so-called
Agricultural society.
agriculture society, a steady one. So, but I found that all the information dealing with archaeological or anthropological regarding the old populations, regarding the past, was a very, very sketchy. In reality, no, very few people, and this few people done research into at the beginning 1900, never worked very much on the Andean system, and behind that, on the east, on the Amazon side. So I concentrated my research into that area. And from south, from Peru to Colombia, all the range, I spent years to investigate it.
How did you choose your locations?
Oh, not particularly, it was a question of choice. It was a question of work practically at the beginning, day by day. I received some information, saw maybe a piece of artifact, and slowly I become into the much more primitive and a sense of develop of the clay type of figurine. And my contention at that time was that before clay, the clay society,
Yes.
so-called,
Yes.
developed the material available if you are on the island of the Andean system, and behind that was actually the use of a stone. And the cost in the previous years, I found that from time to time, actually, the
You would put about what date onto the pre-pottery culture?
well, all these years that I work in this particular area on the east side of the Andean system, in the low Amazon at the foothold of the Andes, I discovered in a Andean in a so-called Amazon territory mound, berry mound, so-called tola, that with the shade of pottery where show actually the cultural aspect of these people are quite advanced. Beautiful color, you know, negative, white, pink, white, red, and black. So that make me feel that actually the pottery age known till the moment was much more older, much more ancient than what really we know. And not only that, but the mound that mostly are associated with the coast on the north part of the coast of Ecuador, South Peru, and in north in Colombia. They are the system was used on mound in 1,000 years before that, into the Amazon itself. But I say the relationship between my investigation then into the Andean system and to find that the people I call the stone carving people was because around the coastline and in many parts of the burying ground was discovered metate, the carving bowl in stone, hard stone, volcanic stone that people use to grind, do the grinding, corn and other beans. And that is a mountains, Andean mountain tools. You cannot find such tools in a coast. The material are not available in a coast. Also,